All right, folks. Hey, welcome. I appreciate you all attending today and taking time out of your schedule. We'll try to make this as quick and painless as possible. This shouldn't run any more than 20 minutes or so. We're going to go over, well, the title is Transaction Audits Efficiently Recall Sales Data, and really what it's all about is recalling invoices and being able to do that for multiple modules. My name is Charles Owen. I've been here at Paladin for 10 years, and excited today about this webinar. It's the first of its kind. We really haven't talked about recalling transactions before. There's a plethora of ways that you can go about retrieving information in the Paladin system, particularly as it relates to invoices. So we're gonna cover that today. If you miss any part of this, you can always go to the Paladin portal. You can get to that through our main website or by the Paladin application. Paladin application, just go under Help, click Webinars, and if you go to Paladin Point of Sale on the top right-hand side, there is a drop-down that says Webinars, and you can get to the Help portal that way as well. You can do that from your home. You don't even have to be on the application. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. The webinar agenda here is, first I'd like to go over some of the goals and takeaways from this particular presentation today. The importance of being able to recall past transactions. I think we all recognize that, but I want to go over some of those less obvious ones. Modules for recalling invoice transactions. There's a number of different ways to do this. And also the many different ways to recall invoice transactions. The different search criteria, the different transaction formats, types, and layouts. And then also changing some of the default setup options that might give you a more immediate meet your requirements quickly and easily without having to jump through hoops. And then we can also, there's a Learn More, which gives you some of the articles, knowledge-based articles and webinars and such that you can get to more information at any time. All right. If you do have any questions, I wanted to mention there is a question box there. Feel free to type your text in. You're on a listen-only mode right now, but if you want to get a little floor time and come on the call, just state it in your question. I'll be glad to activate your sound. All right, so the first one, goals and takeaways. Streamlining recalling a past invoice transaction. I want you to be able to very quickly and rapidly be able to get to the information that you want to get to. And again, we can do that from multiple modules, and we'll be going over all of that. Also, know where to go for invoice-specific historical data. Recognize the many different search criteria options when searching the invoice transactions and understanding the different invoice transaction types. There's a multitude of different formats and layouts and types depending on what your need and goals are. So those are the goals and takeaway. So let's talk about the importance of quickly recalling past transactions. So the biggest, I think, reason and benefit to this is be able to take care of your customers. Somebody comes in, they forgot what they bought 6 months ago, you can easily, very quickly bring that up. And also if they had questions of price or cost or anything like that, you can very easily recall transactions, returning items as well. It also has accountability. So each one of the invoices have a timestamp, a date stamp, an employee stamp, where they were at physically in the store, which terminal they were at. So it kind of adds some accountability. Also simplifies the returning process. So if somebody brings something to your store and wants to return it, they don't necessarily have to have a receipt. So this will accommodate that. Provides historical data for financial audits. Pretty obvious one. Tracks warranty item sales and services. How do we accomplish that? Well, in Paladin, in the note field, you can put any serial number or any number for that matter or description, and we can search invoices by that note field. We can search it for all the times that somebody brought in a warranty item. As long as that serial number was placed on the invoice, we can bring and recall that. And also offers enhanced services to your customers, obviously, and that's what it's all about. The name of the game is being able to provide services that your competition doesn't necessarily provide And if they do, you should be able to do it faster and better. All right, moving on. Modules for recalling transactions. So we have multiple modules for recalling transactions. They are invoice and quote, customers, inventory, and reports. You can see that on the screen right now. So let's go into the first one. So the first one is invoice and quote module. This is a busy screen, but there is a lot of information here. So let's start with the module that you're going to be in. So I have this little icon in the top left-hand corner, invoice and quotes, where you first go. Second, you go to advanced lookup, and then third, you go to history. Obviously, if you've done this before, it's nothing new, but there are some things that you might gain from this, and that is, if you select a customer, their name is going to appear, meaning that at the invoice, you select who the customer is, and then you go into advanced lookup in history, you're going to see their name here. Also, you can search by invoice number, part for that particular customer if you have a customer brought up, and then invoice reprint, which enables you to get the last 100 invoices up on the screen and then reprint those. If you select invoice number or you search by invoice, or if a customer is called up and you don't even put in an invoice number, you just hit this find button, it will pull up all of those transactions and items that the customer has ever purchased. If you want a report of that information, number 5 here, report detail or report summary, you can get that information. So you can very quickly and easily find out who's buying what and sort that, report on it. It puts it into an Excel spreadsheet format so you can easily slice and dice that data any way you want to. Now, when you do call up a customer, rather than saying recent cash sales, this tells me that you can search for all cash sales, meaning those unknown entities. Also, it will say all invoices if you select a customer. And if it says all invoices and you hit the find button without putting any particular invoice number in, it will display all of the items that customer has ever purchased from your store. Then you can sort it, produce a report, and so on and so forth. You may also double click on any of the items to create that duplicate receipt to a PDF. Now, depending on how you have your system set up, and we'll cover this on the settings area, it can either produce a PDF on the screen or it can go directly to the printer, depending on how you have it set up. So we'll cover that in the next section here. Moving on to the second way that you can recall transactions, you can go to the Customers tab or module, and from the Customers module, you go to the Credit tab. And from the Credit tab, you're going to see under Sales History, there's 2 magnifying glasses. One says Customer Friendly, the other says Accounting Department. Customer Friendly displays the list below that we see, and it lets you divide or sort that by project or job. So if you're tracking the jobs and the projects of your contractors or customers, and you want to, let's say they come in and say, hey, I need all the invoices for this particular job. Within seconds, you can reproduce that. Because once you select the job, you can double click on any item. You don't have to select a project or a job. It's just an option. Again, if you double click on any of the items, it will duplicate a receipt and send it to a PDF and or printer if it's set up for that. And then lastly, there's a report button on the bottom right-hand side as well that lets you view this information in Excel. So it takes all of the invoices, brings them into Excel, and again, enables you to produce that information and give it to your customer if they're needing that information. All right, no questions so far. Sounds like we're moving along here. So the next third way to call up invoice transactions is under the Inventory tab. You go to Inventory, type in a part number, and on that same screen, you have this little magnifying glass under Sales Figures, and that will display the recent sales history that you see below. I just gave the title. And by the way, all these titles can be sorted. And again, just like in the Invoice and Quote module, just like in the Customer module, if you double click on any of the lines, you can create a duplicate receipt to a PDF and or printout, depending on how you have it set up. And then we give you this extra added button here that says click report to view invoices in Excel. So we'll take all those invoices for that particular item, in this case the foam paintbrush, and push it out to Excel. Again, you can sort before you even go to Excel. You can sort by any one of those gray headers: date, time, employee, terminal, account number, sold to, and so forth. All right, let's go to the fourth way that you can recall transactions, and that is through the reports. That's a pretty obvious one, right? So you go to reports, you go to sales analysis, what I need to know, and then you've got two options: transaction report, which puts it in a PDF format, and or transaction report to Excel. This has been added in the recent year or so. So all that information on every single invoice that you're searching based on the criteria you select will be produced and pushed out into an Excel document. So you can further slice and dice it, total it, whatever you want to do with it. So this is in the reports module. Again, sales analysis, what I need to know, transaction report. Now, in the transaction report, you're going to find different search criteria, which enables you to select a range of items and or dates and collect that information. In this case, you have a range of date, part number, the terminal number, which is the computer that you're at, the employee, the department, supplier, class, account number, meaning the customer, and also right down to a specific invoice number or invoice number range. Lots of information here for criteria. In addition to that, we have other settings that let you get down to things like payment method, customer name, and that customer name is usually collected when the credit card is swiped, brings a customer name in, and you're able to search this. If you remember in the previous slide here, I'll go back, you've got account number down here, which is the second from the last item. So you can get to a specific customer that is an account customer or a rewards customer or a loyalty customer or somebody that's in your system. They don't have to have credit, they just have to be in your system. But in this case, under the additional settings, you can put in customer name that was automatically collected when a credit card was swiped. In addition, you have keyword search capabilities. We'll get into that specifically. I'll list all those out for you. And you can also determine the type of layout that you want for this, whether it's customer friendly or accounting detailed. Customer friendly is going to give you information that you can share with the customer. Obviously, the accounting department is more information that you don't necessarily want to share with your customers. It has things like profit, cost, those types of things. And then you can also search invoice amounts greater than, less than, so on and so forth, and then sort them. So if we look at the payment methods, there's a ton of payment methods that you can choose from, including cash, credit, coupon, gift certificate, instant savings, other coupon, and even received on payment on account. And then under the keyword search, this is the information I think is quite valuable. You can search by active project, by inactive project, by customer type. So you can type the customers, whether they're contractors, medical facilities, different trades, and so forth. And then also put in a description. So what's in the description field and what's in the note field. And this is where you can get down to very specific information. If you collect notes on invoices and you put a particular keyword in there, it will find everything with that keyword in the note field. And then you have also payment data and PO number that you can search. Sorting options by the terminal you're at, the employee who helped them, the account, name or number, and or date. These are different search criteria. So moving on, what are the different transaction formats and types? So we've got the stereotypical 3-inch receipt that you see on the screen right now. You can produce this. You can have this to default to come up automatically for every sale or just cash sales. And you can set the larger form, which is the 8.5 by 11, which I'm showing on the screen now. And you can produce that and set that as default or set it for default just for certain customers. So if you want to change your customer experience and they say, hey, I don't want this small 3-inch thermal receipt, that just doesn't work for me, give me an 8.5 by 11. Doesn't matter. When they come in and the cashier selects their name, it will automatically produce a report onto the laser printer. All right, and then we have the what follows the statements, and also for some of the transaction report reprints, you're going to get a landscape mode. Same information, it's even got the signature, all the same information you're going to have on a standard receipt, just lay it out a little bit differently so it consolidates everything onto one page. And then we also have different Excel reports, either summary reports or detail reports that you can produce based on hitting that report button or Excel, push to Excel button in the bottom right-hand corner of most of the search criteria screens when recalling invoices. Those are the 4 different formats that you can select. Now, some of the defaults. So this is interesting. Pay attention. If you didn't get anything out of the last part of this or the first part of this presentation, hopefully you'll get something out here. There are different settings in Paladin that enable you to change how your, number 1, invoices print, number 2, how your recalling of invoices reprint. So those invoices that are asked and required after the transaction. So if you go to File Setup Invoice Local, there's a default invoice form, and this is set for that specific terminal. So you can set it to where it's only a receipt printer or it's only a laser printer. So it will automatically default to one or the other. Most have it defaulting to the receipt printer, but there are a few lumber building materials stores that want to just get the full sheet invoices. They don't want to mess with the little 3 inches. That's fine. You can do that as well. That's under File Setup Invoice Local. It activates if you change this now and you go back and reprint a 3-inch receipt, for example, it's going to come out as a full page, because what you're doing is you're saying change the default for any new invoice reprints and prints or any past invoice reprints. So very important. All right, let's move to the next setup option. That is the printout option. Now, I had kind of given you a disclosure saying, hey, most of these print to a PDF. Well, rather than printing a 3-inch receipt to a PDF, because what does it do? It takes that 3-inch receipt, puts it on a full sheet, 8.5 by 11. You got this little tiny, 3-inch receipt on the left-hand border of that page. If you want to take that 3-inch receipt and have it always go to the receipt printer, so it looks like the receipt when it came out the first time, the original receipt, you can do that. Now, obviously, it has the word duplicate on it if you're reproducing it, but you can force it to go to the printout instead of going to a PDF document. And to do that, you go to File Setup Invoice Store, and you'll see down about midway down, it says Use Receipt Printer for Invoice Reprint. Very important. This is something that can change your life. If you have a constant need to reproduce 3-inch receipts and you're getting them on the large form and it's a lot smaller and harder to see and everything else, you can do away with that and just have it go right to your receipt printer. So this generates a hard copy receipt instead of the PDF document. All right, next one, changing default setup options and customer preference. So this can change your customer experience at checkout, where, and you've probably all seen this, but you have a under the customer module in the customer tab on the right-hand side, there's something called form control. Lets you set up emailing of invoices, statements, whether or not you want to create an end-month statement, and then also on here is force invoice to an 8.5 by 11, a big form. So if you do this, let's say they today they're not set to get a big form, and all their receipts have been 3-inch receipts. So anytime you go and recall a receipt, it's a 3-inch receipt. Now, if they say, well, can I get a big receipt? And this is recalling, you wanted to reprint an existing invoice that's already been in the system for days, weeks, or months. If you go and you flip this switch in that particular customer's module, and you say force it to big form, and then you go and reprint that same 3-inch receipt, it's going to produce an 8.5 by 11. There's a need for this. There's a lot of people that on their reprints, they want the big form, they don't want the little receipt. You can do that temporarily by going in, checking that box under that customer, going into their invoice reprints, print it, and it will produce an 8.5 by 11 versus a 3-inch receipt, even on those ones that were done in the past. If you want it to continue doing 3-inch receipts, then go back in and uncheck that force to big form, and from that point forward, everything will produce for that customer will be a 3-inch receipt. All right, if you didn't know that, now you do. Also, deactivating EMV receipts. So there's, under that same file setup invoice store tab, there's something that says disable EMV receipts for invoice reprint. It's that arrow down there towards the bottom. EMV receipts were required initially, and I don't know if they still are or not, but you have control to turn those off. If you're getting reprints of receipts and you're getting this EMV receipt behind it and you don't want that EMV receipt to print out on those reprints, you have an option here to disable EMV receipts for invoice reprint. All right, so that covers it for that. As far as learning more, there's information, gobs of information in the help portal under the knowledge base where you can check out any one of these articles. These are active links. This PDF document will be available to you on the website along with this webinar in the next 24 to 48 hours. And you'll be able to pass this recording on to others to watch if they're interested, or if you want them to see this information. And in this PDF presentation, these links should take you directly to that spot. Otherwise, these are the actual titles of knowledge-based articles that you can go to for more information. All right, I hope, let's see, 22 minutes, that was pretty close. I hope this was helpful to you. I don't see any questions at this point. I will give you a minute or so to produce any questions if you have any. And in the meantime, I'll share with you that on May 7th, we are having another webinar, and this one is on bridging the brick and mortar to e-commerce gap, connect Paladin to your web store. So if you have a web store or you're desiring a web store and you want to connect Paladin's point of sale system to that e-commerce site to join up and synchronize information like pricing, stock on hand, descriptions, and the like, that is 100% possible in Paladin. We have a connector, and we'll share with you how to do that on May 7th. So do come to that. I do see a question. Can I search for a customer check number? Yes, that is a great question. Under the, let's go back to that screen here, if we can, to jump to, let me just do it the easy way here. So if we jump to, this is in the customer module, is absolutely correct. If you go to the customer module, and let's see, if you go to the customer module, on this display down below, there is an option to search for a check number. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions. That was a great question, by the way. And Janet, I will actually get back with you on that because I want to make sure that your question gets answered. Other than that, hope to see you on May 7th. It has been a pleasure. I hope you got something out of this, and at least we met our goals and our takeaways. I appreciate it. Until next time, see you guys later. Have a great day.